Welcome to this week's Monday Music Motivation. We'll just give it a moment for sort of everything to get started and get going, and for me to share the links around and all that good stuff. And I wanted to ask, actually, while I'm getting everything going, uh, how has this been for you? I'm curious if people are getting a lot out of this. If you've been keeping up with it every week, that's so awesome. I hope you've been filling out your templates, and let me know how the templates have been working for you, and if you've been sort of doing this journaling and getting everything going. Just leave a like on this video if you think this series is helpful and useful, or comment with what you've been getting out of it. So if you've really been liking the inspiration, if you've been really liking having the framework and the planning, whatever it's been that's been the most helpful for you, I would love to know that this is actually useful for you, because that's what I'm here for, is to provide value to you, get your clarinet journey more enjoyable, more exciting, and getting some good stuff out of it. So for today's advice and little inspiration, I want to talk about warming up and your mindset behind warming up. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that like warm ups are my thing, and I'm very adamant that warming up is important. Learning how to warm up properly and really get into the fundamentals is probably the biggest shift in my clarinet playing over my whole entire clarinet journey. That was like the one thing that made me go from being like pretty good at a high school level to actually knowing how to make it to this professional level. So they're massively important. And I will preach warm ups probably forever unless something else crazy changes my mind. But it's not enough to just do your warm ups. We always say like do your long tones, et cetera, et cetera. But it's much more about the mindset you bring to it and getting the most out of it that will actually make the difference for you. So I want to tell a little story about something that happened last week that just, again, really proved this to me. So I help Michelle Anderson of Clarinet Mentors. She has this wonderful clarinet transformation community. It's really, really fun. We do weekly master classes with different groups. And as part of that program, we have these guided practice sessions where we get together on Zoom, and I or Michelle or anybody else who helps with teaching will practice. And we have warm-ups that sort of everybody in the group does. And then we sort of branch off on our own pieces that we're working on. But last week, there was a little bit of like a time confusion, and I ended up doing two guided practice sessions back to back. And in the first one, I did the warm-ups like normal, and it went well and everything was good. And then I played for a little bit. And then the second one, I went back and did the same warm ups for a different group of people. And it was amazing and fascinating. And again, just goes to prove everything that the second time I was doing the same warm up exercises, they went so much better than the first time. And the reason for that was the mindset that I was bringing to how I was doing the warm ups and how I was playing in general throughout. So when I was doing it the first time, it was sort of fresh. I just put that reed on, was just getting warmed up, but I was still going for finding my very best sound quality, getting the clarinet to work, and sort of feeling how it feels to play on that reed and play the clarinet with whatever it was feeling like for that day. And then as I continued playing, I was still sort of working with the clarinet and working on it. And then when I came back around to the second time of warming up, it was so much better because I had figured out how to play the clarinet for the day and how to get the reed working. So the moral of that story is it's all about every single time you come to the clarinet, treat it as if it's a new thing that you're figuring out, and you're doing these long tones and these scales to try to find your sound and find how it feels to move your fingers and find how how it feels to move your tongue when you're doing the articulation exercise. And if you treat it like it's a new thing, and you're trying to figure it out, then every single time you'll be learning how your reed feels, learning how the clarinet feels, learning how it feels to play for that day. So that's kind of my big piece of advice is as you're doing your warm-ups this week, treat it as if you're trying to figure out how to play the instrument. There's a comment with a question from PlayStation of Luck. Quick question with clarinet. When going on the high notes, I tend to squeak when tonguing the notes. Any tips? Yeah, that's super common. The reason why that's happening is because you're probably moving your tongue too much or moving your tongue out of position or changing your embouchure. The way that I think of playing is there's sort of all of these different variables: air pressure, air direction, tongue position, tongue motion, embouchure shape, embouchure pressure, how much mouthpiece is in your mouth, the reed, all kinds of different variables. And to play your very best, you have to sort of have all of those variables in exactly the right spot. And when you're playing and just playing slurred notes, it's easy to keep those things steady and keep it in the right spot. But then once your tongue starts moving, it's easy for one of those to get out of position. Obviously, the tongue's moving, so it's very easy for the tongue position to change. That's why we always talk about just moving the tip of the tongue. Try to keep the back of the tongue and even the middle of the tongue as steady as possible, still aiming at whatever note you're going for, and move as little of the tip of the tongue as possible. And then the other thing is when we start moving our tongue, our jaw wants to move, our lips want to move, the air wants to change, especially when we're tonguing and the sound stops. Our brain's automatically like, well, the sound stopped, so the air should probably stop. So it's so easy for all of those other variables to get messed up when you start moving your tongue. So what I would recommend is just practice tonguing very, very slowly and always think about aiming for the note. So play a good long tone on whatever the high note is you're working at. Play that good long tone, then just do some very slow articulation, T, 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 and work on keeping everything super duper steady. And that actually ties into a little bit of the moral of the story for learning how to play the instrument every time you come to it. Think about those notes as like you're trying to find the sweet spot of the note and stay steady at the sweet spot of the note every single time you articulate so that all of them sound really good. So hopefully this was helpful and a little bit inspirational and gives you a little bit of a different way to be looking at your warm-ups. And most importantly, fill out your template. I already did mine for today or for this week. So I have my plan of when I'm going to practice. I put my practice times in my Google Calendar. So I'm going to stick to it because it's scheduled. It's an appointment that I'm not going to miss. And I have a good idea of where I'm going. So again, you can check the links in the description to get this exact template, or again, you can recreate it for yourself. It's this week's date, a reflection on how things are going in general, a very specific and attainable sort of 1 week goal. So make sure it's not too big of a goal, but also not too small of a goal. And again, you can take this sort of warm up mindset and really see how deep and correct and precise you can really be with those goals that you're making. And then most importantly, plan it. So date, reflection, goal, plan. Make sure on that plan that you actually put it in a calendar, you actually schedule it, because when it gets scheduled, you have a much higher chance of actually making it happen. So thanks so much for watching. Again, let me know, like the video, leave a comment if this stuff has been helpful. I'm really excited to hear if anybody's been really diligently following this, and after I'm done every week is filling out their template and actually putting it into action. I would love to hear if this is actually helpful for all of you. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. And don't forget to fill out your template and make your plan for the week. Bye.